Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Family Meeting Podcast. We are so excited for the conversation we're going to have today. We love the conversations we're having with each of you on YouTube and all across all of our social media platforms. We'll get into some of that conversation today. But as this episode comes out, I am officially bacheloring it. That's how you say it? I'm bacheloring it?
I don't know. But actually, you're kind of wrong. Because remember, Catherine's not going with us to Iowa. It's going to be father-daughter time.
My wife's gone.
Your wife's gone. So I guess you're a bachelor. You're a single dad for a little while.
Single dad. My cuz is in, actually, I pick him up sometime today. I don't even know what time. I got to check that out before I go to pick him up.
That would be good.
You're going to be in Iowa with the girls.
When this drops, I'll be in Iowa.
Having a great time.
I'll be missing you. You'll be pining for me.
You'll
be pining for me.
I know. I hate it when we are not together.
Me too.
So.
I'm actually dreading it. Are you?
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
Although I love going to see my mom and my sister and my dad.
So.
Anyway.
We've got, it'll be interesting family dynamic as we get into that. And trying to think of what else we got coming up. We got, you'll get home. We'll have company coming into town, friends coming into town. Drew and Chloe and their family. And then we got Relationship Refresh here in Flagler Beach, which you can go right now. Get your tickets, $25 a couple. We'd love to see you here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be in Gray, Georgia, with our friends at Elam Baptist Church for their marriage conference. And that is August 9th. And we'll be there that weekend, throughout the weekend with them at their church. So going to be a great time. We got a couple events coming up. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to opportunities to see you in person.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to see you in person. And so make your plans to be with us. Okay. Anything else we need to chat about before?
I don't think so. I feel like that's life in a nutshell.
Okay.
That's what's up with the Oster camps.
Oh, we do have a bunch of our friends are coming over.
Yeah.
This Friday. So we're making time for some friends, no kids allowed. Gonna have some tacos and all that stuff. Just kind of hang out on a Friday night with our friends. Probably about 30 of us-ish.
Mm-hmm. I need to text people today.
Yeah, just confirm and let them know what to bring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. I think I've got everything that I need to pull up ready on my phone. Are you ready? You feeling it? Do you need to yawn one more time before we get started? I knew it. You didn't need to yawn until I said yawn, but...
I did not. I am fighting a little bit of a headache, and I meant to take Motrin before we started, and I forgot. So I'm just a little bit, distracted, trying not to think about it.
Message received, everybody.
Yeah, message received. It's 7 a.m., so, yeah, there's a message.
Did you see the meme that it popped up the other day? It was a little video, I guess, not a meme, but... a husband walks up to his wife and he's got a glass of water and he's got a bottle of aspirin. And he says,
I did see this,
"Hey, I got the stuff you need for your headache." And she's like, "I don't have a headache." And so he's like, drops the stuff. He picks her up and carries her way into the bedroom. So
yeah, that's pretty funny.
Preemptive strike on an excuse.
Super funny.
Okay, here we go. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my beautiful wife, partner, best friend, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 249 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to discuss breaking family cycles. How can you do it? You know, there comes a time, I think, when you say, it ends with me. This negative family cycle is going to end with me. These are patterns of behavior or dysfunction passed down through generations. And it can be really challenging to attempt to break a family cycle, but it's transformative and it can affect future generations. And you can be the difference. But it often I would say maybe it always involves awareness to start with, but emotional work and consistent action. And so we're going to talk about what the negative family cycles could possibly be. And we're also going to talk about how can we break that cycle.
Okay, be a good conversation today. It's something I've been thinking about and talking about for, I don't know, the last couple of weeks or so, especially.
And I was going to say, it's crazy because I'm the one who picks the topics, and this has been on my list of topics that I wanted to talk about for a while. And I just decided, like, okay, we're going to talk about it this week. And meanwhile, 2 days ago, Thomas had a devotional for the Men of Valor.
Men of Valor,
Valor podcast. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, we're talking about breaking the cycle. Breaking the cycle? Is that what you...
breaking the cycle of our past. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I talked with him about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, are you serious? That's what we're talking about in 2 days on the podcast.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like, there's a reason the Holy Spirit is leading us to talk about this. And maybe it's you. Maybe you're the reason that the Holy Spirit wants us to talk about this right now.
So we do have a Breaking the Cycle worksheet.
Yeah.
That will help you kind of walk through the process of identifying the cycle and taking steps to work to break that cycle. If that's something that you're interested in, I need you to shoot me an email at info@familymeeting.org. And if you would just put in the title there, Breaking the Cycle worksheet or Breaking the Cycle, and I'll know exactly what that's about. So that's info@familymeeting.org to get your copy of Breaking the Cycle worksheet.
That sounds awesome.
I think that'll be a great help to you. And we're getting ready for this conversation, but before we do, we have got just a couple more weeks until Relationship Refresh here in Flagler Beach. That's going to be July 25th and 26th. And I always look forward to that time that we have together at Relationship Refresh. And the content is different every single year. So even if you've been the last couple of years, we're going to be talking about different things than we have before. And it's always good to take time away just to spend working on your relationship. Yeah. And so we'd love for you to be with us. It's so cheap. It's $25 a couple. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's $12.50 per person. That's like half a Starbucks. And
nice.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to say that like our marriage conference is cheap. You're supposed to say it's affordable.
Yes.
Sounds nicer.
But the thing is, like, we want it to be accessible to all couples. So we're not looking to make any money on this. We're literally looking just to cover the cost of putting on the event, and that is it. This year, we're going to be talking about man versus wife.
Yes.
And just highlighting the differences that we have that make each of us unique, but those differences can bring some challenges in your relationship. And so identifying and understanding what those are and how you can work around them and through them and how they make you a stronger unit is so valuable. And so I'm looking forward to having those conversations with each of you and generating conversations between you and your spouse. So make plans to be with us today. You can go to familymeeting.org/shop and you'll see the Relationship Refresh icon there. And so those will be some great conversations. We're having some great conversations on social media as well. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about hurried child syndrome. Yeah. And on one of our TikTok videos, had conversation come up between a few different people. And it was interesting to hear from, our followers on TikTok. We are on TikTok, Family Meeting, if you want to follow us there. But we look all over the place and kind of just share some different conversations we're having on our different platforms. So whatever platform you're using right now, jump into the conversation. We'd love to have that with you. But when we're talking about hurried child syndrome, E is on there, and it's literally just the letter E as their name that it's on there. Says, kids have lost the skill of being bored, and it's so problematic.
Yeah.
Which I agree with. And that's one of the things that we talked about is boredom is not a bad thing.
Right.
Boredom is a great catalyst for curiosity and creativity. And I don't know what it is. It's not just kids today, but everybody is so afraid of being bored. It's
Absolutely.
like if you have to sit without anything for a few seconds, it's like you're looking for your phone to like scroll social media or whatever else.
I'm like that. Like, I see myself doing this. Like, I'm in line at UPS to make a return, and there's 3 people ahead of me, and I know it's going to be a couple of minutes. Like, I get my phone out, and I'm starting to answer emails or texts or just scroll aimlessly or even read my Kindle book. Like, just because it's going to be 5 minutes of nothing. And it is. It's like we're terrified of being bored. It's weird.
Well, and it's like we can't even sit down and watch a movie or a TV show without having our phone within arm's reach so we can check it every 2 seconds.
Yeah. Or like how often do you see people watching a movie and scrolling on a social media platform?
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
I was doing an interview with Dan Bergman the other day for Pastor's Connection podcast, and he's a digital evangelist, and he shared this stat with me that I think I'd heard it before, but it's been a long time, and it was just like, man, I believe it, but it's incredible that like some 2,000 plus times a day we touch our phone.
2,000.
Over 2,000, yeah.
Jeez.
It's like we're just so afraid of being bored. So Stubby Potato.
I love it.
I'd love to know how that name came to be, but says this: we talk about it in education constantly. Students are coming to us at different levels of mature. Some are parentified, and others are allowed to be kids. We have to meet them where they are.
Hyper-parentified.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
So, and I agree with them. We do need to meet them where they are.
And what a challenge for all of our educators. Wow.
Yeah. But instead of pushing them to be older than they are, letting them be who they are. But, you know, in order to do that, we have to meet them where they are right now and help them to be the age that they are. Appreciate your input there, Stubby Potato. Have a great day. And then, hello, it's Rachel. So instead of hello with an E, it's got an A.
It's like, hello, it's Rachel.
Oh, yeah. I bet it is.
Yeah.
You're right.
Because I read a lot of British books, and they either say hello. I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So she says, as an RBT, which I'm gonna just tell you right now, I have no idea what an RBT is. She says, the amount of parents, educators, and therapists I meet who don't have a baseline for developmental milestones / expectations is astounding. Example, asked my supervisor last week if a specific behavior was developmentally appropriate for my client, and she said she didn't know. What do you mean you don't know? This supervisor is supposed to be fluent in adaptive and developmental skills, shaking my head. Which I agree. It's like, you know, if you're supposed to be the expert and you say, I don't know if that's normal or not, like, and so I just commented and said, hey, do you have any resources that you would recommend for parents to learn more about this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And she responded, there are obviously different foci and scopes on this subject, but the most user-friendly and available resource I've seen so far is the CDC's Developmental Milestones Guide, which you can just Google that and have that.
I mean, I know pediatricians have it because they're always like, every time I took the girls in, they're like checking to make sure they're at this, they've accomplished this milestone or getting close to it.
Yeah.
At each appointment.
And then she finishes up by saying ASHA also has a good one more geared toward communication specifically.
Okay, wait. What was the RBT, was it?
Yes.
RBT.
But it's, I appreciate the input and the conversation there that we get to have with so many people on the topics that we're talking about and get their perspectives and their experiences.
Yeah.
So, like I said, wherever you are, whatever platform you like to use, we would love to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, because what we bring to the table is kind of our maybe two-sided perspectives, but it's so great when everybody interacts and we get to hear everybody's different perspective on the topic. And I feel like that's when we all really learn and grow.
Yeah. So, speaking of conversations, let's get into the conversation we have
Breaking the
for
cycle.
today. Talking about breaking a cycle, and I want to start with this. So, we are followers of Jesus. I would say that a lot of our listeners are followers of Jesus. I know that there are some who are not, and that's totally fine. The information that we share, I think, will be helpful to you anyway. But as a follower of Jesus, I want to remind our listeners of this in 2 Corinthians 5:17, because for some of you who are listening, you are thinking a couple of things. First of all, maybe you're thinking about yourself that I can never break this cycle.
Yeah.
And maybe it has to do with some addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, food, pornography, social media, whatever else. And you say, I just can't break it. Or we have people who their loved one is in a cycle, like a cycle of, family history and whatever else, and they just keep on repeating it. And we can think, wow, they'll never change.
Yeah.
They can't change. Well, I just want to remind you of what Paul wrote to the Corinthians in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come.
Amen.
So if you are a follower of Jesus, if you've accepted Jesus to be your Savior, then you are a new creation. So the old has passed away. He's given us everything that we need to break those cycles. That's the old me. He has empowered me to become new person in him, create new cycles, healthy cycles, and get rid of those old ones. If you're listening and you have not trusted Jesus to be your Savior, listen, I'd love to have that conversation with you. And if you will reach out to us at info@familymeeting.org, we can sit down and work out a time where we can have that conversation over a Zoom call or something like that. But if you're a follower of Jesus, just hold on to that promise. There's going to be ups and downs. You're gonna take step forwards, and then you're gonna feel like, man, I'm taking steps backward. But if you are in Christ, you are a new creation. The
What
old
hope?
is gone, the new has come.
I mean, that brings hope. That
Totally.
should bring all of us such hope. So I read a meme the other day. It said, maturity is working through your trauma and not using it as a never-ending excuse for poor behavior. And I thought that was kind of interesting that was going around right before we're about to talk about this, because whatever the family cycle is, and it may be childhood trauma or something else, a lot of times what we do is we use the family cycle as an excuse as to why we are the way we are, and we can't change.
Yeah, and it reminds me of this new song I heard just the other day from Jelly Roll. And you're like, some of you are listening and like, first of all, who's Jelly Roll and why are you talking about Jelly Roll on the podcast? But he's got a new song came out in the last couple of weeks. It's called Bloodline. And it says in the lyrics, I want to share just a couple of lyrics with you. It says, Mama said her dad's to blame, but that's his daddy's fault.
Wow.
And that is exactly the way that we live some of our lives. Is we repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
And that's the way my daddy was, that's the way his grandfather was,
Yep.
and so that's the way that I'm going to be. But I like, as you get down to the chorus, he says this, oh, my brother, you don't have to follow in your bloodline. Oh, we got each other, and if you got tomorrow, then you still got time to break the chain that left you scarred. From where you came isn't who you are.
Wow.
You don't have to follow in your bloodline. And I love that, because we don't have to, but we do often use it as an excuse.
Right, exactly. And negative family cycles are passed down through generations, and they can involve all kinds of different things. So I know that when I think of like a negative family cycle, before any kind of research or anything looking into it, I immediately think of like abuse, or I think of not saying I love you, like simple things like that.
Sure.
But there's a lot more that can be the negative family cycles, and so we wanted to talk about that. But it can be patterns of behavior, beliefs, emotional dynamics, all these kinds of things that harm the well-being or healthy relationships that you're trying to have in your family. And these cycles can stem from trauma, social norms, survival mechanisms. or just like repeating what you've seen. It's just the example you've seen and now you're doing it. But if these are left unexamined, if they're left untouched, they're going to repeat endlessly. And so this is where today we want to encourage you, if you start to identify with some of these generational negative family cycles, and you say, oh, that's me, that's my family, that we do that, then that you would say today, this cycle ends with me now. I'm not going to do this to my kids.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not going to do this to my spouse. So that's what we want to encourage you to do today as we talk about this.
Well, and that's the thing, is you can't break a cycle until you first recognize that you are repeating it. Think of what the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans. He recognized the cycles that he had in his personal life, and he's saying, hey, the things I don't want to do, the wrong things, the evil things, those are the things I find myself doing, and it just this pattern that keeps on going.
Yeah.
And he says, there are the good things that I want to do, and I just can't seem to find myself doing them. And this is exactly what we have to do, is we have to recognize what they are. And so we want to start off the episode by just giving you some of these cycles, these negative family cycles, so that you can work to evaluate your own life and see if any of these things are present in our family or in ourselves.
That's right. All right, here's one. Emotional suppression. And some families do avoid expressing emotions, especially like any kind of vulnerability, or I don't want to be angry, so I pretend like I'm not angry, or nobody ever can be sad. Or how about this one? And this one I think is something that a lot of people in your generation, Thomas, that sounds like you're an older generation than I am.
Okay, here we go.
In your older generation, boys heard growing up, boys don't cry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Be strong. Pretend like nothing hurts you.
Yeah, boys
nothing
don't cry. Yeah.
Boys don't have emotions. And that's a negative family cycle. So it's going to lead to difficulty with intimacy and emotional regulation. It's going to lead to problems with trust. And ultimately, like we talked last week about being honest, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it in a mean way. And if you are emotionally suppressing everything, so like everything is suppressed, nothing is real, then there's no trust, there's no connection, because everything's fake. It's not real. You're not who you really are.
Well, and the thing is, like, we are created as emotional beings, all of us, not just females, like males as well. But we've been taught, like, you don't show feeling other than maybe anger. Like, anger is one of the ones where it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
But we suppress all these emotions in us, and as we wonder, men are dropping dead of heart attacks and all these other things, because it's like, man, that's a lot of stress you're carrying that emotionally you need to learn to deal with. Another one of these cycles is toxic communication. Patterns like yelling, passive aggressiveness, stonewalling. We talked about that in the last episode, and Lysandra gave us a great Webster's definition of stonewalling.
Webster's dictionary defines stonewalling as one person emotionally withdrawing from a situation or discussion and shutting down communication immediately.
Excellent. So now we got the other one, and we got Webster's. So stonewalling or constant criticism. And the thing is, children often internalize these styles and repeat them in their relationships. I mean, that's just a natural tendency. When we grow up in a certain way, we just think that's the way it is, and so we repeat it. Like, that's the way a relationship works, so I'm going to keep on repeating it that way. That's the way we communicate with each other, so I'm just going to keep on repeating it.
And toxic communication, I think, is like one of, probably covers a lot of a percentage of people in our culture. Like, this because you think about all the different ways you can have a toxic communication in your relationships. Yeah. I mean, it covers a lot.
Well, and I think emotional suppression and this can kind of go together too, depending, because like, I don't know how many men that I've talked to who they've never heard their dad say, I love you. They've never heard their dad say, I'm proud of you. Like,
yes.
So like, my dad never said it like to me. And so what do? I turn around and I repeat the same thing. And so like, my dad never said it. So I guess it's just something I'm not supposed to say. They should just know I love them because of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love is in your relationship. So you heard your dad say you love you. He loves you. I think twice you said. Is that right? Twice in your lifetime he said I love you?
Something like that, yeah.
Maybe. And Thomas decided he was going to break that cycle, and he tells his children and me he loves us constantly. Like maybe a little too much. No, I'm just kidding. Not too much.
I'm sick of hearing it.
We know already. Shut up. But just think about those ways that you are communicating and be careful there. But okay, how about this one? Neglect or emotional unavailability. So parents that are physically present but emotionally distant. And I think this definitely happened like in the earlier generations and stuff where it was like
My
children,
old person
Your old-
generation
yeah.
is what you're saying?
yeah, you elderly people. Like children are meant to be seen, not heard, that kind of idea. But I think it's way worse now probably because we all have our cell phones. So like we can all be sitting in the same room or at the same dinner table, but we're not interacting. We're completely emotionally unavailable because we're on our phones. So we're there, but we're not there.
Yeah.
And Be Where Your Feet Are. Is that
Yeah,
right?
great book. Yeah,
Good
I was
book
going to
about
mention that, but yeah.
Okay. So if you are emotionally unavailable or you're neglecting your kids, this is going to lead to insecure attachment and low self-worth in the future generations. Okay. Another thing can be overly strict or overly lax parenting. So you think about like, my dad was really strict, so I'm going to be really strict. Or my parents didn't care about anything, so I don't care about anything. And that can oftentimes be because you're mimicking your own upbringing, or whatever. And I also think sometimes we got to be careful because we'll swing the pendulum too far. So like, my dad was so strict, so now I don't ever punish.
Yeah.
Or I actually know someone who said to me that because their parent was abusive, they did not do any kind of physical discipline.
Sure.
Because they didn't trust themselves with it. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but I'm saying it is a pendulum swing as far as you can go. So, something to think about.
Another one of these things is codependency, where you are enabling unhealthy behavior, whether it's addiction or irresponsibility, to keep the peace or avoid abandonment. And this creates unhealthy boundaries and self-sacrificing patterns.
Mm-hmm. This one I think is so important to identify, and that's untreated mental illness. Man, denial ain't just a river in Egypt, baby.
Oh, boy.
You like that?
No.
It was good. It was spot on, actually. But listen, I think to a certain extent, we can all be in denial about our emotional health and our mental health. It's like we're so afraid of therapy, or we're so afraid of medication, or so afraid to like take that step to figure it out. And I think a lot of people, one of the reasons they don't do it is because in their heart, they know they're going to be diagnosed with something and they don't want to know,
Well, I do like that it's becoming more of a common thing for people to go to therapy and get counseling and get help, which is a great thing in my opinion.
It is a great thing. But you think about depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, anything like that, and where you stigmatize it or you ignore it or whatever. And it's like, well, my parents did it and now I'm doing it because my grandparents did it, and so on and so forth. But it's going to lead to silence, shame, and lack of emotional tools for future generations. So we have to be the ones to say like, hey, I have this problem and I know it, and I'm going to go get help.
Another one of these patterns has to do with addiction and substance abuse. Alcoholism or drug use often runs in families due to genetic, environmental, and emotional factors. And, often just repeating the same old cycle. And once again, sometimes it is genetic and all that. Sometimes it's just like, oh, this is the way we deal with things.
Yeah, that's the example. Like when my dad was stressed, he would go for alcohol. Or when my, mom was upset about something, she took a pill. And so you see that and you keep going. And abuse also, of course. Abuse was the one that actually addictions and abuse were the ones that came into my mind right away.
Yeah.
So, you can say like, this abuse stops with me. This is an interesting one. Gender role rigidity. So beliefs that, men don't cry or women should be quiet or women should be making the sandwiches in the kitchen while the man watches the game in the living room, and just being like super strict on gender roles in a relationship. And this can restrict emotional and personal growth, but it's just interesting to think about that. Do you remember that guy who wouldn't let his son touch a purse or hold a doll or anything?
Yeah.
Teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And it's obviously that's how he was raised, and he's passing that down. It's so wrong for a boy to touch a purse or whatever.
Yeah.
And here you are holding my purse while I go do anything I want to do.
Yeah, and I've got no problem with it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
The thinking that some people have is just strange and bizarre to me, but a lot of times it is passed down from their family. Here's one that you may not think of right away when we say negative family cycles. Shame and perfectionism. Mm-hmm. So this idea of perception management, we don't talk about our problems, or we must appear perfect to others, which leads to secrecy, anxiety, hiding struggles. There's a lot of issues that are going to stem from that type of thing.
Super unhealthy.
Growing up in church and now leading a church, we often see this in the Christian community where, we just kind of pretend like everything's good, that we've got it all figured out, that our life is absolutely perfect. And we walk into church with a big smile on our face and tell everybody how great life is. Meanwhile, we go home and we're arguing, we're fighting, we're dealing with addictions and struggles and sins, but we like to pretend like everything's okay on Sunday.
And that can be a cycle. How about this? Racism, prejudice, or bigotry. And children are going to absorb that, the biases of their environment. And we've got to see that that is something that I have because I saw it in my parents, and I'm going to break that cycle. But this one's really important. Make sure that you are evaluating that. And how often is it when I think people don't know that they have this problem? And remember, awareness is where it starts, right? Understanding this is the family cycle. And here I'm going to give you an example of a way that if your family does this, then this is your family cycle. When you're telling a story and you have to tell the person what race the other person was in the story.
Yeah.
This guy came up to me, he was whatever race.
Yeah.
Why does that matter? Who cares what race he was?
Yeah, what does that have to do with the story?
That has nothing to do with the story. That's an issue that maybe you don't know that you have. Maybe you don't know your family. Excuse me. That is a cycle that your family's passed down.
So we learn to recognize these things. You cannot break the cycle unless you're aware of it. Mm-hmm. And just recognizing one of these patterns in your family is a huge first step to take.
That's right.
You've got to recognize it before you're ever going to be able to break it.
And I feel like we just kind of went through these a grocery list, zoom, zoom, rapid fire, telling you all these different things that it could be. But just really think about it, and maybe you need to replay the episode or push pause as you go through and really evaluate and think about that. Because we want to give you now some strategies to break the cycles, because we want you to be able to say, it ends with me. I'm not passing this down anymore. It ends with me, and make that commitment. And so we want to give you some ways that you can do that.
And once again, as we talk about these things, we're kind of going rapid fire. We do have that breaking the cycle worksheet that can help you kind of more slowly and methodically think about it, work through it. Shoot me an email, info@familymeeting.org, and we'll get that to you to help you work your way through this.
Mm-hmm. And that'd be a great family meeting for you guys to go through. Okay, so here's some steps. Here's some ideas, strategies that you can use. Here's the first one: develop self-awareness. Understanding is the first step to change. Stop denying it. Right? If you kind of think maybe that is an issue, stop saying maybe and just be like, okay, this is an issue. This is a problem we have. Admit it. But you've got to be self-aware, and people who are self-aware. You've had conversations with people who are they're not self-aware is what I mean to say. And you're like, dang, they don't even know they do that thing, or they don't even know that they're saying such a horrible thing. They're totally, unaware. And you may be that way too. I may be that way too. So we've got to start picking up on these things. And part of that is going through that list of cycles that could be present in your life.
And part of that self-awareness is being able to identify patterns. You ought to be able to look at reoccurring issues like emotional abuse, addiction, poor communication, or neglect, and recognize your role in it. You know, how are you perpetrating the cycle, even unintentionally? And this is one of those things where I talked with the men on Monday about this, is you may need some help identifying the patterns. You may need some help seeing the cycle. You know, it's so easy for us to see things in other people.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult for us to have self-awareness. Few people have true self-awareness. We're blind to our own shortcomings a lot of times. And
Blind spots.
Having people in your life that you literally have conversations with and say, hey, I give you permission to speak into my life. And asking them the hard questions like, hey, we were having this conversation about breaking the cycle. Do you see any cycles, negative cycles in my life that you think I need to work on? And as these things are brought to your attention and you start to identify them, one of the things you can do that I think is good is use journaling or therapy to explore how family dynamics have shaped your beliefs and behaviors.
Yeah.
The more you understand yourself and where you came from, the better chance you'll have of getting to where you want to go.
Right. Right.
And breaking those cycles.
And I feel like this next one also they all go hand in hand, I guess, but educating yourself. So you've got to educate yourself. So maybe you went through and you're like, okay, abuse is the family cycle that's in my life. I didn't realize that this was actually abuse. And I mean, man, that's something to look into right there. Like, emotional abuse is something that's very tricky to spot and identify. So maybe you didn't even know that was the issue, but now you realize like, oh, our family has been emotionally abusing generations for a long time. So you've got to educate yourself on that topic.
Yeah.
Start doing some reading, gather some information, gather some books, read some blogs, whatever you need to do, and figure out what is this all about. That's when like lights turn on, when you're like, oh, that's what we've been doing. And then you can also educate yourself in steps to take to change that, right? You want to steer the ship in the opposite direction, which doesn't happen quickly necessarily. It sometimes is a slow process, but you've got to have the education. You can't just bury your head in the sand and be like, well, this is how my parents did it. I don't really know how to do it any other way, so it's what we do. That's not a good excuse. Knowledge is going to help you with the problem. It's going to help you build empathy for yourself and others. So now you understand why grandma was the way she was. And now you get why your dad acts that way because that's how his mom was. And now you know why you've been treating your kids that way. It's not about blaming past generations. It's about identifying it and educating yourself. You can have empathy for them. You can say like, I'm sorry my grandma was abused by her father and that's why she was so mean to my dad. And I'm sorry that my dad passed that down on to me. And I feel bad for them because hurt people. And I know they were hurt. But it ends with me. I'm going to learn about this so that I can prevent myself from doing the same thing.
Well, and you talk about turning a ship or going in a different direction. And one of the ways that we do that is by setting boundaries.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, our family for generations has been going this direction, which is unhealthy, which is damaging, it's negative. I don't want to go that direction anymore. I've got to set some healthy boundaries. Now, the book Boundaries is a great resource for understanding how to do that. But healthy boundaries are essential for breaking cycles. You have to be clear and consistent about what is and isn't acceptable. Whether you're talking about behavior, communication, or interpersonal interactions, whatever it is.
I think about so let's give an example here of yelling, right?
Yeah.
There are families that have been yelling for generations. And it's hard to change that cycle because it's just normal for you. You don't even think twice about it. And you think it's not even affecting you or your kids because, you're just so desensitized to it. But let's say yelling. So what you might need to do is have a family meeting and say, kids, I've been yelling at you and you've been yelling at me and you've been yelling at your brothers and sisters, and it's not okay. I know that grandma and grandpa do it. I know that, my grandparents did it, but I don't want to be this way. This is not right. And I've realized that now. So I want to apologize for bringing that into this home. I take responsibility for it. I never should have yelled. And so now we need to have boundaries. This is the tone that is acceptable. Anything over this is not okay. If this boundary is broken, here is what will happen. You will need to go to your room for, 5 minutes until you're cooled down, and then you can come back and talk to me in an appropriate way. If I yell, I'm going to go to my room and I'm going to take 5 minutes until I can come back and talk to you in an appropriate way. So you've got to be clear. And then the consistency thing, that's really important. So when you yell, you've got to be like, all right, I just yelled. I got to go to my room. I'll be back. Because you might still be hot and angry, but go to your room, take the 5 minutes, and you're going to come back. And now you can have the conversation, or you can at least attempt to have the conversation again without the yelling. So think about that in terms of what is your family cycle? How can you set boundaries? How can you be clear and consistent about what is and isn't acceptable? And then, put that into practice. So you got to take this thing and put it into your own terms.
And when we're talking about setting boundaries, one of the things you have to do is not feel guilty for limiting contact or saying no. Mm-hmm. It's like, say you're struggling with alcohol and that is an addiction that has control of you, and maybe it's been passed down from your father and so on and so forth. You shouldn't feel guilty for saying no to the guys going out to the bar. It's like, no, I struggle with this. I'm trying to break this cycle, so I'm not going to go to the place that is difficult for me.
And this might even look like saying no to your parents for Thanksgiving. I can't go to Thanksgiving because there's so much alcohol and it's something I'm struggling with and I'm breaking the cycle. So that means I don't go to grandma and grandpa's. My children don't get to go see grandma and grandpa. Unless grandma and grandpa are willing to say we're not going to have alcohol because this is a problem for us. So I'm willing to give that up for this meal to spend time with my grandchildren. But if they aren't, you might have to limit the contact, and you're going to have to not feel guilty about that. You're going to have to be like, this is the best thing for my family. Why? Because it ends with me.
And you've got to understand that others may resist these changes at first. Not everybody is going to be happy about you trying to break the cycle or change your life or better yourself. The people who truly love you and care about you and want what's best for you, they'll be happy with you. They'll be supportive. But there's going to be a lot of people in your life that aren't, because it's going to shine a light on some of their own bad behaviors and bad cycles. Yeah. And nobody likes that. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody likes to have somebody kind of point out their mistakes or their wrongdoing. And so just keep that in mind as you try to break your cycle. Not everybody's going to be on board with you. And you need to limit time with those people, and you need to spend more time with the people who will truly support you becoming the best person you can possibly be.
That's right. Now, this next one, I feel like we almost talk about this one every single episode because it's so valid in every topic, and that is you may need to seek professional help, right? So I'm not going to camp out here, but just understand that if you are trying to break a cycle, it's not easy, and understand that it's not easy, and you might need help. You might need outside help, which is such a good thing. Don't feel bad about it. Don't be embarrassed about needing help. Yeah. Go get help. You're doing this for your family, not just your family, but for all future generations, because you're going to break a cycle that is going to change things for your children's children and so on.
Well, and you think about what Ecclesiastes says, 2 are better than 1. If you're by yourself and you fall, you've got nobody to help you. But if you got somebody with you and you fall, they can help pick you up. And sometimes that looks like going to see a therapist. Sometimes that's just, hey, I need a coach to help me take some action steps, hold me accountable, and take some action steps to break the cycle. If we can help you do that, and we do coaching on breaking the cycle, if we can help you do that, hey, just reach out to us. You can send us an email, info@familymeeting.org, or you can literally just go to our website, familymeeting.org/shop, and we have the coaching options available there. Mm-hmm. So another thing you need to learn how to do is practice emotional regulation. Often these cycles persist because emotions are either suppressed, we don't feel emotions, we don't show emotion, or erupt uncontrollably at the opposite end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And what we've got to do is we've got to learn to recognize triggers and respond with awareness rather than reactions.
That's good.
So you're going to use techniques like mindfulness, grounding, deep breathing. One of the things I like to do, especially when I'm feeling angry, is I've got a Bible verse in James that I quote over and over again. Wrath of man works not the righteousness of God. In other words, hey, if you react right now in anger, you're not going to be doing the right thing. And so you're practicing these emotional regulations that can kind of help you. Maybe it's like, okay, I feel this. Now I'm just going to stop and I'm going to just say a prayer real quick. Like, God, help me control my anger. I'm going to quote a Bible verse. I'm going to use my grounding techniques and learn how to model calm behavior for others, especially for children. So what we're trying to do is break the cycle and show a new cycle, a new healthy cycle. Yeah. So rather than repeat the emotional outburst and anger, what I'm going to do, or the emotional suppression, is I'm going to show how to, show emotion in a healthy way.
And I am like genuinely so thankful to you for breaking that cycle that you had in your family of anger and outbursts and stuff, because that is what Thomas walked into our marriage with, as that being the norm. And when we had a really serious discussion about it, you committed to not doing that. You committed to changing. And some people commit to changing and never change, but you did change.
Well, and I'm still working on it. It's not like I never struggle, I never have a problem with it, but definitely continue to work on it every single day. Yeah. Some days are better than others. Some weeks are better than others, but, keep on working on it.
But I just think about like how thankful I am that my children are not growing up in that kind of a home. And I'm grateful to you for breaking that cycle. Another thing that you really need to do as you're trying to break a cycle is build a support system, especially if your family can't be that source of support. So you think about that, like you were talking about breaking family cycles. A lot of times that means like putting distance between your family, which is where this thing kind of came from. And so you may have to cultivate chosen family. You think about sometimes that little phrase, friends are the family you choose.
Yeah.
And we've had that all through our lives where there were friends that were so close, they felt like family, even if it was just for a season. But find those people who are going to support you through this. Mentors, or even like support groups, whatever you need to do. But find godly people who can help you get through this. Maybe you have the problem, let's go back to yelling. Maybe that's the problem. So you see this family over here where they don't seem to raise their voice. They're always talking and communicating in appropriate, kind ways. Okay, that's who you want to mentor you. So you find someone who they're modeling the healthy relationship and the gap that you have in your relationship, and then you follow them and you ask them if they'll let you be a mentor for you. So think about that. Who's the chosen family that you need to bring into this?
And part of the breaking the cycle is creating new traditions and norms. You don't just stop the old cycle, you replace it. And I love this list that Paul gives to the Ephesians, and he talks about, hey, you need to get rid of this negative behavior and you need to replace it with this positive behavior. And of course, that we know that comes through the power of the Holy Spirit. And relying on him, walking in the Spirit, and you won't fulfill the desires of the flesh and all those sorts of things. But it's a great principle to live by, that you've got to get rid of the negative, but you replace it with the positive. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to prioritize communication, respect, and emotional openness. You're going to teach empathy and accountability in your home or relationships, and celebrate growth, not perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's about growing. It's not about being perfect, because you are going to make mistakes. You're going to slip up. It's so easy to fall into old patterns. It's what we do. When things get tough, we kind of go back to the old pattern. And so you've got to understand, hey, when I do that, I need to get back up and continue on the new course that I'm setting. So it's not about perfection. You're celebrating growth.
Exactly, because you got to be patient with the process. Like, it's not going to go quick.
Yeah.
And you think about, like, if it was a graph chart, it would just look like a roller coaster. Up and down, up and down. But hopefully...
Look like the stock market. It's like...
Yeah.
That
but hopefully
really squiggly line. You're trending up. Yes.
Yes. That's the goal. And be patient with that. Don't look at slipping back into the old patterns like it's this huge failure. All right, yeah, you might have made a mistake. You might have slipped back into it. But understand that we learn from those failures. Identify the failures, be aware of them. That comes with the self-awareness. Like, okay, I did it. I did the thing. But then turning away from it again and just taking the baby steps. Baby steps are so frustrating. You don't move fast with baby steps, but it's still a step.
Yeah.
It still counts. So just keep on the road and be patient.
Then you want to break the silence. Secrecy often keeps dysfunction alive. And this is one of the things I was talking about with the men as well, is we kind of we'll have this idea that, I'm just going to work on it by myself. I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm dealing with pornography. I'm just going to kind of work it on myself. I'm not going to tell anybody I'm dealing with alcoholism or whatever you fill in the blank your cycle is. But that silence, that secrecy keeps a grip on us.
Yeah.
And once we speak honestly and openly about what it is we're dealing with, it loosens the grip that thing has over us.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's only then that we're able to get the help that we need. So if you're sitting here listening to this podcast and you're saying, man, I know that I have this negative cycle, this sin that I'm dealing with, this pattern of behavior or whatever else, but I'll work on it myself. Like you're continuing to give power to that thing over you. Mm-hmm. You need to learn how to share your story with others who are ready to listen or learn, and that will enable others to walk alongside of you and you to walk alongside of other people. Because there is something about helping others that also helps yourself.
Yes.
Like when you're dealing with some sort of addiction or pattern of behavior and you start to help walk people through that, that's why I think in AA, part of the process is helping somebody else.
Yeah.
Because as you help somebody else, that helps you as well. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to break the silence. I know that sometimes there's shame and guilt and all these things. What are people going to think about me? I mean, I'm XYZ. What are they going to think about me if they know? Like, the people who truly love you and want to see you become the best person that you can become will be happy for you. They'll be happy to walk alongside of you, to help you, to encourage you. And so don't believe the lie that, hey, I just need to be quiet about this and I'll just work on it on my own.
Yeah. And part of that is choosing carefully who you open up to, right? So making sure that you break the silence, but maybe picking and choosing who gets to hear the truth, and choosing, those chosen family, right? Like the mentors, that godly people who you can trust. Those are the ones you want to break the silence to. And you've got to lead by example. You can't tell your kids there's no more yelling in this house and you keep yelling. And then you yell at your kids like, you're not allowed to yell. Like, you guys, that's not going to work, right? You know it. I know it. We've got to lead by example. And yet we want to try to do this whole, like, do what I say, not what I do thing. And that fails every time.
Yeah.
You might not change your entire family, okay? But what if the changes you make affect your niece? What if the changes that you make affect your nephew, your cousin, like your brother, your sister? Like, it's not just about your own children, but this could affect one or two of, your family members, your extended family members. You can have an impact on them. So these changes that you make are going to have a huge impact. It's a ripple effect, but you don't know where the ripples are going to be.
Yeah.
And just focus on your own behavior, because you've got to be the example. You've got to be the one that says, I'm making the change. It ends with me. And oftentimes when you do that, it's going to inspire those younger generations. But it could affect even like your parents. Even your parents could see like, man, they're not doing it the same way with their kids, and look how much more success they're having. It's better. And maybe it will. Maybe it will transform even your parents. But if it doesn't, just focus on what you're doing. You do what's right. It isn't about past generations. It's about what you're doing right now and the change that you can make.
So with family meeting tonight, here's what I want you to do. I want you and your spouse individually on your own to work through the Break Your Cycle worksheet. And then once you've completed that worksheet, I want you to come together and have a conversation about what you've discovered about yourself. What are the steps that you want to take to try to break the cycle? Open up a conversation about, hey, what other things do you see that I need to work on that maybe I'm just not seeing right now? I didn't think of it. It's not on my worksheet. And so having that conversation, so as a couple, you can chart a new course for your family, a new direction. It ends with me. You want to get that worksheet? As I said, info@familymeeting.org, and we get that out to you right away.
What if they wanted to listen to the Men of Valor podcast about this same topic? How would they find that? Just through Spotify or whatever?
Yeah, I guess. They have a YouTube channel.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today, everybody. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on your socials and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or you can email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about today's episode.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting that will be no adults allowed. The Osterkamp girls are taking over the podcast for episode 250. What? You don't sound excited. You don't look excited at all. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see his face is very meh.
I was listening to you. You got the
I'm
hyping
hyping it. I'm hyping it, and you're not getting hyped. It's really a bummer. But the girls are going to share the worst things a parent can say to their kids. So we have our own ideas on this. We've sent out the polls through our family meeting community group.
It's out right now, so we want to encourage you to drop your comments either under that. You can drop your comments. You're watching on YouTube. You can drop them right now where you are. All our other social channels. Send us an email, text us. And we want to include your thoughts in this very special episode.
Yeah, because we want to hear what's the worst thing a parent can say to their kids. Some have been really funny, and then some have been
like soul crushing.
Very serious.
Wow, I can't believe your parents said that to you.
And we're going to divide the episode into the two. We won't mix those up, but we want to hear both. So maybe you have a funny little quip, or maybe you have something that's really serious that can help the rest of us. So we want to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Yeah, breaking the cycle. And so, hey, whatever the negative cycle that is that you're dealing with, you can break it.
That's right.
The power of the Holy Spirit, you can break it. You are a new creation in Him. And so, hey, get started on it. Shoot us an email. Just comment your email address. We'll get that worksheet to you, and you can get started on that today. If we can help you further with that, please feel free to reach out. And until next time, we'll see you.